Welcome to the Atomic Impact Podcast. I am your host, Jason Osborn, and on this podcast, we interview successful business owners for them to share atomic, impactful lessons that they've learned throughout their journey and share them with us to learn from as well. As always, this show is sponsored by the reverse podcast method, the new way to close deals that doesn't rely on any of the old traditional methods that everybody hates. We use this method to book 26 qualified leads and sales calls in 10 days without any ad spend, outreach, or endless social media posting. To find out more, direct message me on LinkedIn to have a chat. That's Jason A. Osborn on LinkedIn, and the link to that will be in the show notes below. But on today's show, our special guest is Cody Lutz. He's the owner of Coach Cody, where he provides business coaching. So welcome to the show, Cody. I want to ask you a question that I always start off with. I love this question, and it is this. If you were able to go back in time when you started your very first business, what's the number one piece of advice that you would give yourself?
Oh man, that's a great question, Jason. The number one piece of advice, and this is a mistake that I made and a mistake that I see a lot of new entrepreneurs that I have coached making, is to sell first and then build. Sell first and then build. Find a way to test your idea in the marketplace with the people that you actually want to sell it to, and then spend your time and money building that product once you have a clear idea of who wants it and if people actually do want it and where to find those people and how to sell it. Because I think the most common way that people get into like business as new entrepreneurs without maybe experience in that space before is they're like, oh, I had this great idea. I had this great idea for a product or a service, or I think this is really cool, or a resource or whatever. And they spend a lot of time and money building the deliverable and the brand and all the things behind it, the really fun, exciting stuff to build because they're passionate about their idea. And they kind of think if I build it, they will come. And then they spent all this time and all this money and they have this thing and they don't know who is going to use it or how to find those people or how to sell it to those people. And so the best way to start a business and be successful quickly is if you can sell or create demand, at least, to use a different word rather than sell. Maybe you can't sell it yet, but that's things like wait lists. That's things like crowdfunding. That's things like pre-orders, pre-sales, any kind of way that you can create demand before you go and spend your time and money on the product. It's
Yeah.
gonna have you, a lot better success a lot faster. That would be my best advice. I've made that mistake myself in businesses that I've started in the past, and then when I started businesses in the future, like the fitness coaching business, online fitness coaching business that I started, and that grew really quickly. I did the opposite, where I went and I sold a bunch of guys into a program that didn't exist yet. I said, hey, here's the program. Here's what it's going to be. Do you want to be in on this? And they're like, yeah, okay, great. Like, we'll do it. Like, okay, cool. I got all the people I needed in the program. And then I gave myself enough time to go and basically build out the program and figure out what apps I was going to use to deliver the workouts and all that kind of stuff. And actually go build the workouts and build all the resources.
Yeah, I love that. It's market validation, I think, is absolutely key for sure. I think a lot of people get it confused with, oh, I talked to some of my friends and they said it'd be a good idea. And I was like, that's not market validation. That's friends being polite and they don't want
Yeah.
to because they don't know what they're talking about. But I totally agree, man. Yeah. Along when you say that, like I totally agree with what you're saying. A lot of this stuff that's coming into my head, and I'd love to hear your thoughts around this, is failing fast, right? Just get out there, fail as fast as you can, as opposed to build up something taking ages to do it. And with what you do with coaching, I'm sure you come across this a lot as well. But what are your thoughts on that, the failing fast concept, and what have you learned along those ways along the way and the lessons that you could share with people on that topic.
Mm. Failing fast. Yeah. And the reason why people often don't go out and try to sell their idea, there's two reasons. One is fairly clear, and that's, oh, this misconception that I have to have something physically present in order to sell it. Like I can't sell something that doesn't exist, right? You actually can't, right? Pre-orders, wait lists, etc. You're selling the idea.
Mm-hmm.
You're selling the outcome. And this is even when you have the
Yeah.
product, right? People make that mistake. They think they're selling a product. What they're actually selling is the outcome.
Yeah.
If you're selling the outcome, you can do that before you have the product. The other reason that people don't do that, especially if they don't have sales experience as a founder and they have a really cool idea for a product, they're really product driven founders, and they're not working with like a sales co-founder or business development or something like that, is it's scary. It's scary to go put your idea out there in the world and have people criticize it or reject you.
Yeah.
But in the sense of failure, that is the most valuable piece, because then you actually know in those conversations, in those feedback, even if they say, no, I don't want it, or I'm not interested, or I don't want it at that price, or I don't want it with those features, or can it do this instead? All of that feedback, all of those conversations, you can look at that as failure. It's like, oh no, I built the wrong thing. It's like, no, that's just feedback, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you in 90% of the maybe all 100% of the time, you can always swap out the word failure for feedback.
Yeah.
Right. And like, it sounds cheesy, but it's really true. If you just go out there and you're selling, for example, and someone tells you no, and that rejection, you feel like, oh, I failed. You can look at it that way, or you can just look at it as feedback. So yeah, failing fast, this idea of like going and collecting failure, you're not, I mean, the problem with you say that, like, well, how do I just go out there and plan and try to fail? So no one's
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
trying to fail. The idea of failing fast is get feedback fast.
Yeah. Yeah, totally agree with you. Yeah, it is that feedback mechanism, isn't it? The more feedback you get, the faster then you can have the iterations of the offer you have, or the positioning of the offer and all that sort of
Uh,
stuff, which is
yeah.
absolutely, yeah, very, very important. One of the other questions I love asking, Cody, I'd love to hear this from you, besides everything you've already communicated. Um, is there one particular challenge that you faced in business that seemed extremely overwhelming at the time? And feel comfortable sharing that. What is that? But what's also the lesson? So it's kind of a twofold question in there. What's the lesson you learned from that?
Hmm. You know, probably the biggest challenge, Jason, is the instability of starting your own business.
Mm,
I don't necessarily look at it as risk in the sense of like a W-2 is safe and starting your own business is risky. I think there's
yeah,
risk on either side of the equation, but
sure.
there absolutely is instability. With a W-2, you have regular intervals of money. And when
Yeah.
you're starting a business, you don't have that. And for me, I actually lost what launched me full time into building my own thing. I was kind of doing it on the side, but what launched me into, okay, 100% entrepreneurship, my own thing, this is what I'm doing, was losing my job. Now, thankfully, we had some savings and we had a little bit of a runway
Mm,
between severance and savings. We were able to, but I lived off my savings for like 6 to 8 months while we tried different things and tweaked the offer and adjusted the business plan, like got things, the marketing rolling and all that. So, I mean, that was scary. That was really
yeah.
scary. And so that was the challenge. But one of the biggest challenges that creates is you don't you don't often make good decisions out of a place of desperation or
Mhm.
impatience.
Yeah.
What often happens is if you're desperate for money, you're not going to stick with it like a good plan or a good idea long enough for it to bear fruit. I
Mm,
think it's Warren
yeah.
Buffett that said you can't have a baby in 9 months by getting or in 1 month by getting 9 different women pregnant.
Yeah,
It's like
true.
that process takes time. And
Yeah.
it's the same thing with various types of marketing or outreach or whatever. Some work faster than others. Some offers are deliverable faster than others. Some deal cycles are shorter than others. But the fact is, if you're like, oh, this isn't working fast enough and I have to jump to the next thing, you're constantly shooting yourself in the foot and killing any progress that you're making. So that was a huge challenge for me of just having the patience to stick with the plan. The other piece of that too, and that desperation that where it really gets you is the neediness that you have in selling.
Mm,
You know, I have it written on my computer stand in front of me underneath my screen. It says needy is creepy. And when
yeah.
you're selling to people, the most authentic and winsome way to sell is from a place of serving people, right? And people can feel that energy if you're just trying to get at their wallet. And if
Yeah.
you're like, man, rent's due and where's money coming from, then that can really make it difficult to sell from a place of service rather than neediness.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree with you on that. Say that again, Cody. What do you have written underneath your keyboard?
Needy is creepy.
Needy is creepy. Needy is creepy. That is a huge lesson for a lot of people that are in business and they're just desperate for those sales. It's
Yeah.
that place of like servanthood selling almost. How can I serve someone in
Yeah.
true servant with what you're doing? Because a lot of people, oh, I am serving them because I can help them. It's like, yeah, but you're not. You come across desperate.
Yeah.
And I think that's really, really important. And I think people are getting a lot more in tune with that when they can hear the difference between someone just trying to sell them something and someone who's actually there to help them. So it's a massive, massive difference. Is there a key lesson that you've learned on how? Let me ask the question a little bit different way. You may be in a place in your business where you need the cash flow. You might
Yeah.
even feel desperate. And so,
Yeah.
for people that are feeling that way, maybe they've been well established and they just had a bit of a downturn or whatever the case may be. How can people not come across needy, even though there may be a great need in the business for cash?
Yeah. It's hard. Courage is what you feel as a result of what you know, which is conviction or what you believe. And so I always tell people if your bank account doesn't convince you, then let your belief convince you that
Yeah.
they need you more than you need their money. I know it doesn't feel that way, but if you can get in that headspace to say, this person, I don't need them as much as they need me, what I have to serve them with, the offer that I'm going to create for them, the impact that that's going to make for them, their life, their business, whatever it is, they need that. And they need that more than I need their money.
Yeah.
And you flip that neediness around to say they need something that I have, and then I'm going to come and serve them with it. Value, money is a lagging indicator of value and impact, right? Money is just a
Yeah.
measurement and a lagging indicator of value and impact. As entrepreneurs, our job, yes, is to create money, but first is to focus on creating value and impact. And if you try and focus on just getting money, you're putting the cart before the horse, and it's always going to mess everything up. But when you focus
Mm,
on creating massive value, massive impact, the money always follows. For
yeah.
me as a Christian, the biggest unlock, the biggest thing that allows me to be in that headspace of serving people is Psalm 127, Matthew 6. Don't worry. Matthew 6 says, don't, Jesus says, do not worry about what will we eat, what will we wear, where will we live. It says the Gentiles worry about all these things, and your heavenly Father knows that you need them all.
Mm,
But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. Psalm 127, once written above my door in my office here, it says, unless the Lord builds the house, those who build it labor in vain. This is God's business. I just work here. I don't provide for my family. God does. My job is just to show up and to be faithful and to serve people well with what he's given me, with the opportunities that he's given me and the business that he's given me, and he'll take care of the outcomes because we can't control the outcomes. And that's what we
Mhm.
want. That's where fear comes from, is that desire to control the outcome. But when we can
Mhm.
have faith in the promises of God to let him have the outcome, and then we just serve people, it's a much more peaceful place to serve from and to sell from.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. There's lots of lessons in there, Cody, that you've shared, which are just people can just hear it. It can really help them grow and where they are in their business, no matter what level of business they're at, which is absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Well, listen, let's look over the next kind of 2 to 3 years. Like, where do you want your business to be? What are your goals? What are you looking to achieve, Cody?
Yeah, man. Thank you for asking that. So, just started the business coaching offer at the beginning of 2025. That grew exponentially. We've crossed through six figures already in the first year. Next year, hoping to at least double or triple the amount of impact and therefore the amount of value and money that we make in the coaching
Yeah.
business. Long term, what I would really love is to take the frameworks and the lessons that we're building out over the next year or so, probably write some books, probably turn that into frameworks that other people can use to make it bigger than myself.
Mhm.
I really look up to guys like Patrick Lencioni and Table Group. Really look up to guys like Donald Miller and Story Brand, and Gino Wickman and what he's done with EOS and how many businesses that's helped, how many
Mhm.
people that have the gift of coaching that's empowered, that those guys have empowered with frameworks and with tools and with resources and with certifications. I would like to do something similar with, the coaching that I'm building over the next few years.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's absolutely amazing. Well, for people that want to get in touch with you, Cody, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. You can reach out to me directly by email at hello@codylutzmedia.com. And then also my website, mycoachcody.com. But more than anything, and how Jason and I connected, how we connected is on LinkedIn, because I'm on there like all the time, every day. That's really the only social media that I do. So you can find me on LinkedIn. We'll be buds there and hang out.
That's amazing. Well, everyone, make sure you check out Cody. And Cody, thanks again for being on the show, man. Absolutely great advice and wisdom that you shared on this. And as a reminder for everyone listening, this show is sponsored by the LinkedIn Reverse Podcast Method, the new way to close deals that doesn't rely on the old traditional methods that everybody hates. To find out more, direct message me on LinkedIn to have a chat. That's Jason A. Osborn. And until next episode, stay inspired.